Preseason is upon us. The first preseason game is Saturday. Now, be straight with me. Come Saturday night, are you going to look on StubHub at the last second for some $15 tickets to get in that building?
I'll look. We're not going to find them. I guess LeBron not playing might lower the ticket, but
yeah,
it's
he
Lakers.
Just lowered. Lakeup is like, dude, can you not announce that before the game starts?
I'll look.
I just had to put down $5 million for the WNBA franchise here.
Yeah. Is that a topic today?
Oh yeah, we're definitely. Oh yeah, we should talk about it first. I just kind of wanted to, we know preseason's coming. We'll talk about Saturday's game. We'll talk about all the Chris Paul noise. We'll talk about the Draymond injury. But yeah, the big news is the WNBA franchise. There was a press conference today with Lakeup, Goober,
London Breed, the WNBA commissioner, Malika Andrews.
Malika Andrews is who hosted it. Yeah, who was the Warriors? The younger guy.
That's Brandon Schneider. I follow him on Twitter. I think he's just the CEO or the COO of the Warriors. I forget what.
Yeah, he did a lot of the talking. He did more of the talking than Lakeup and Goober did.
Yeah.
And so
COO Brandon Schneider of the Warriors.
And so, did you ever figure out? Is it going to be 24 or 25 when they start?
I didn't figure it out. I tried to read a couple articles to see. The Athletic hasn't posted crap, man. I don't know what their coverage of the WNBA is, but I read a couple on the Chronicle. And Killian and Connor, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but they did stories about it. But no, I swear though, I heard during the press conference that they were talking about an expansion draft in 2024, which would make no sense unless it's after the season. But yeah, they were talking about like timeline. I know here's the draft and here's this expansion draft in 2024. I don't know. Maybe they just had their dates mixed up, but to me, it sounded like there was a chance we got to draft next year. And if we did, it's a big draft. A lot. NCAA women's college basketball is at like peak viewership. You got Caitlin Clark, you got Paige Buchers, you got Cameron Brink from Stanford. There's I think Haley Van Lyth and Angel Reese, both on LSU this year. Like it's a lot of talent of potential players to come out and enter the draft this next season. But if the Warriors can't, or whatever the team name ends up being, and they can't draft till the next year, there is an argument that a player like Caitlin Clark, who's making a ton on NIL, would decide to stay in college because she's making more money in college, and then start like kind of run with the. If I'm like her agent or her marketing advisor, like I'd be like, hey, like. If the Warriors, like, I don't know how expansion drafts work, because this is the first time an expansion has ever happened in my lifetime that I'm paying attention to, because the Atlanta Dream was added in 2008, but I wasn't paying attention to the WNBA back then. But I'd assume the Warriors get the first pick in the draft, or the second pick, them or Portland.
If it's them or Portland, and Portland's the other team that is rumored to be joining to make it a League of 14. And I do think it's 2025, by the way. I think she may have misspoken about 2024. Because the way that I read the timeline, which is college basketball season goes through April, right? Beginning of April is kind of when it ends. Mm-hmm. Then you have the WNBA draft. Now, she said before the WNBA draft would be this expansion draft. Oh, no. She said it would be after the WNBA. I can't remember. No. The expansion draft would be before the actual draft. And then that
in the season happen. Plays.
That then the season starts like a couple months after that, so it has to be 25.
It has to be. I don't know. She must have misspoke.
Yeah, so she just misspoke.
Totally possible.
Because
I misheard.
Well, I've seen the stories before today. It all said 25 would be the season that they start, and so then if you go from 12, you have one more year. So the finals starts this weekend.
Finals start on Sunday.
So you finish out this season. Best of 5 between Vegas and New York. And then next year, after college basketball is over, then you have the 24 season. The following year is when they would draft, and they would do the expansion draft, and then they would do all that stuff. So I would assume that both of those teams would get 1 or 2, and then they would probably have to flip a coin. Now,
if the WNBA, if the WNBA wants to, it would be best. I'm just saying right now, it would be best if Caitlin Clark ended up in a Golden State, uniform. And I don't know if they want to rig it of some sort, but it would make sense if the girl who we were talking in our PlayStation chat last night, Caitlin Clark, pulls up like Steph from the volleyball line.
Mm-hmm.
That's and if she, you could run with the marketing campaign of, Steph's on his last years, Caitlin Clark comes in to take the next era of Warriors women's basketball. Like there's a lot of money to be made in this scenario. Under Armour deal, So hey, if you want to rig that first pick to us, Portland Fire, they'll probably be. You guys.
Well, that was the old. They used to have a franchise, right? In Portland.
Yeah, it was Portland Fire.
I don't like that. The Fire? Like, why would you want to be Fire?
You already have fun names. I like talking about it's fun names in the WNBA.
But all it does
names
is
that don't
rain
end in
in
S.
Portland.
Yeah, that's true.
That's all.
Their G League team, they actually just introduced a G League team in the past couple months, and they're called the Remix, the Portland Remix. I like that.
Well, what did you think about Malika's suggestion, the Bay Area hyphy?
I was not with it. I was not with it.
Well, here's what
I was
you
expecting
do.
Something good.
Okay, here's what you do. You get some rappers in the Bay Area. None other than E40, maybe, and Mr. Fab. Those would be the two I would get.
Pilo.
And you go, hey, let's go to the community. Let's hear what the community wants. Those guys are creative guys. They could come up with some of the marketing. And then I would just kind of stir the interest around it. I had one that I don't think makes a ton of sense, but if you want to play off, because Lakeup kept saying, we're going to do the Bay Area. We're going to play off of the Bay Area. It's probably not going to be Warriors. I think the Warriors would be a little silly if they named them after the Warriors. The Lady War, none of that stuff.
Yes, yeah, no, it's stupid.
What about the Splash?
That's off of the Warriors. That's because of the Warriors.
No. But it is based off of the
Bay.
The Bay Area. It rains every once in a while. Like I think last time I mentioned the Breeze. I like the Breeze, the Bay Area Breeze. There's the Bay Area Breakers, but we looked up and there's like some sort of team name already using the Breakers. The Bay Bombers was the old roller derby team name, and Bombers, bomb from three, that makes sense a little bit. Bombers in today's lingo, a little bit of war-ish. I'm not sure if that's the best, but that's why I thought of Splash, because there's a link to the Splash Brothers, and you would want Steph to have some sort of relationship to this team.
Doesn't that word just feel a little too like almost informal for a team name?
The word is weird. It's a weird word for sure. It's not a noun. It's a verb technically. Like the Splash Brothers, it is used as an adjective, but the actual word is a verb. It's you splash something splashes around. So yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But I was trying to think of something that is unique to the Bay and also
what happens
related to the Warriors.
Lakeup wants to keep it Bay Area, but what happens if the Oakland group, who's been pushing to get a team, what happens if they get a team? We can't have the Bay Area team and then like an Oakland team.
I don't think they will. I don't think I think the WNBA, maybe if you get to like 25, 30 teams, then maybe there's room for two in the Bay Area, but you need to spread it around.
It's so interesting how
like even Sacramento, that guy from who mentioned Sacramento, right when he said that, I was like, no, they're too close. Like that was my initial thought, was they're too close.
My initial thought was just like not yet.
Yeah. But we went to that we went to that area.
It would be perfect. It would be perfect for a WNBA team. But I think there are other markets that I don't know if more deserving is the right word, but just seems like they'd be more ready to handle that. The women's basketball, it's on a surge. Like it's ready to get going. Like what are the major markets that are still missing out on a team? We need to get teams there. And I think Florida is another one that I don't think has a team. SoCal only has one team. They always historically have two teams, which I think is why NorCal should get two teams.
Those are also two flaky areas, though. There's so much stuff going on in LA. There's a lot of, depending on where you go in Florida. Like Miami would be a terrible place. Because the Heat can't even draw, right? Like there's so much stuff going on that it's really hard. So I would go to, they mentioned Denver. I thought Denver was an interesting one, the NBA champions. But
I heard they weren't putting a substantial bid on a team, which, I mean, some of the stuff you don't even think of, but it makes sense. I know Toronto, she was mentioning Toronto. I remember they did a preseason game there and it went nuts. I mean, we'll see. Yeah, I think the Bay is perfect. It made way too much sense. Like, like the ties to, like you were talking about the San Jose Lasers. Why is it that? Maybe that should just be a team name. I don't know if it's cursed or something, but yeah, I'm having trouble thinking of team names.
So
So
I
I'm
asked
interested what it's going to
somebody.
be.
So remember, I told the story of where I had this like vision that I was doing San Jose Lasers play by play, and then the next day at school, I walked right next to their best player, Jennifer Azzi. So I reached out, or I just tweeted at Marcus Thompson. He didn't reply back, but somebody
I
saw the
saw this
tweet.
tweet. Yeah, I saw this
Somebody
tweet.
saw the tweet, and they said that she works for Las Vegas, so she may not be even available to come back to the Bay. She may. I mean, she's working with the best franchise right now, so. But yeah, I thought that would be fun because there was like now you wouldn't know this, but when I was younger, they were the top college basketball team in the Bay Area. Like it wasn't Stanford men, it wasn't Cal men, it wasn't San Jose State men, it was Stanford women. That was the iconic team when I was growing up in the Bay Area in the mid to late 80s. It was always the Cardinals women headed by Coach Tara Vanderveer. So in this area, we don't really hear the Stanford women's team is still excellent every year. Like Stanford men, Cal women, so up and down. San Jose State, let's not even talk about San Jose State. That is the consistent program in the Bay Area when it comes to college sports. So I think it makes a lot of sense to have a team out here, and you have this bridge between Stanford and this pro team, and I just it just seems sound to me, and the fact that Stanford is good, there's an immediate bridge to the Bay Area. Like if somebody in Stanford becomes the next Caitlin Clark or Paige.
Well, the actual like isn't who's Cameron Brink's godparent? Is it Del Curry or is it Sonia?
You tell me.
I don't know. It's one of the two though. So that's
where did
like
she go to school?
She's Stanford. She's a center.
I know, but where did she go to? Like
high school?
Did she
Like,
grow up around here?
I think she grew up in the Bay. I don't know her like AAU or high school backstory though. But yeah, she's like Steph was always at Stanford supporting her purely because that's. It seems like I've seen like previous videos, like they look like they semi grew up together.
So there's some sort of connection there.
Yeah.
And look, here's the other thing. I hate it when podcasters say "and look," by the way, because it's an audio medium and you can't actually look when you're listening. So I apologize for using "and look"
and listen.
But and here another one of my least favorite ones is here's the thing, and I was about to say here's the thing. The NBA, and we've seen this from the superstars of today. Kevin Durant is investing in volleyball teams and pickleball teams and all of these things. The WNBA could grow through investment by NBA players,
which they just allowed in the new CBA,
right?
Which they just allowed.
So if Steph, I have no idea if Steph has a piece or wants a piece of this Bay Area WNBA team, but if he did, he signed a $200 million contract. He makes multi-millions with Under Armour. I don't know what his statement said. He's not like a $3 billion guy like Mr. Michael Jordan or anything, but that would be an avenue for him as he ages out of his Warriors career to keep his foothold in the Bay Area and to then be this proponent of women's college or women's basketball with his two daughters. So I just think it's a natural fit, man. I love the idea of it.
You know who would be a player that I would be shocked if he wasn't interested in jumping in on ownership like Buster Posey did with the Giants, former Warriors player?
Santos. No, I know who you're talking about.
Iguodala. I totally think he would be someone who'd be interested in that.
The thing about Iguodala to me, though, is he is so interested in the tech side of things. Like that seems to be a passion of his, is like this tech side. So this is not, I mean, you're not running a tech company. You may use analytics and tech in an interesting way for an operation, but it's a much different thing, right? It's all marketing and it's presentation and it's working with the TV network. And that doesn't seem maybe as fun as, figuring out product and figuring out how to get this product in more people's hands. And, that kind of thing seems probably more his side, but who knows? Like, I mean, you're talking about a smart dude as well. So, he probably has a couple of spots that he can pick.
Yeah.
But that's what I want to see. And this is an underrated thing about the growth of the WNBA is the more that the NBA players support it and the more that they get involved in it, the more awareness it goes to the WNBA. Because now think about this. We know that the NBA season plays from October through the finals in June. And then the rest of it is draft and free agency. And they do a pretty good job of keeping up with information and, Shams and Woj. There's information, but it's not like it's a year-long thing. Now, if you could make the WNBA interesting for the entire season, then the NBA and the WNBA together have this like full year rotation of just constant information and news. And some of that would be if some of these NBA players, these famous players, decide to invest or decide to work with the teams or decide to, do something marketing wise and lend their support in that way. I think that could be a really cool thing. And, honestly, I don't think that they would do it without the possibility of ownership. So I think if you are the owner of I'm trying to think of a random WNBA team, Atlanta, and Trey's like, hey, I got 20 million I want to put into the team, or I got 10 million that I want to put in the team. You should sort of just do it so that he's around and so that he's kind of a little bit of the voice of it to bring awareness. I think that's like easy money right there.
Yeah. I think one thing that, this is a Warriors podcast, so I think one thing that Warriors fans might take out of this whole endeavor is that Klay Thompson made a statement today about the WNBA team, and that he said summer's just got a whole lot interesting. I am excited. He said, this is not word for word what he said, I'm paraphrasing. I think he said something like summer's got more exciting. I'll be making the boat ride from, I think he's at the what's Sausalito area, kind of in that a little north of that. He's gonna take his boat back to Chase and watch those games. And what that means is that I think he's about to take a nasty pay cut. I'm just convinced, like, that guy just like wants to be in the Bay. Like, he loves his boat rides. What an amazing commute to take a boat ride to work. He loves the area he's in. Like, I would be shocked if this guy was like, okay, you're lowballing me. Like, the only other team is the Lakers.
That'd be the other team
that
he'd
Kobe
do that for.
But I even think like that there's just not, this is the most ideal. He's just so happy with his like life outside of basketball right now. I can't imagine him not being on this team. So with that being said, he's already saying he's going to go watch those games in the summer. Maybe there's a low ball coming.
Can we bring his pops up here? Can we just give his pops a job so that the LA thing is like not an option?
I know.
Let's just tell. Let's say, okay, you come up here. We'll give Kalena, a game off here and there. You pop in. You do the radio side. You do the radio side with Tim. And yeah, I think that would be awesome because sometimes Tim does them with Tolbert, but sometimes he does them by himself too. So that let's bring.
Is Barnett not doing it anymore?
You know what? Barnett may be doing the road games, and maybe Tolbert does the home games. But I still see that Tim may do some by himself. So
I never listen to the radio.
I don't either. When I was younger and when I was commuting a lot more, I would have.
I listen to it for the Giants, but not for the Warriors. I'm always watching it, I think.
All right, so as people could tell, we are very excited for this WNBA team, and we'll probably have some sort of presence as long as this network exists. We, whether it's a segment on this show, the Death Lineup, or we kind of do our own. I would love to find somebody, to actually do WNBA podcast, and that would be a lot of fun just to have help somebody kind of get their feet wet and get this whole thing going and teach them how to do this. That would be fun. So if there are any takers out there, any interest, any young people who are interested in women's basketball, let's do it. Let's get it going. All right, let's talk about Chris Paul and Steph Curry. There seems to be lots of information about these guys and how they're specifically making sure that people know that they're working together in these drills and, Steph doing a drill and CP doing a drill and Steph helping him do this drill and CP, just being like, this isn't new for me. I've been doing these drills forever. Like I guess I never realized what the relationship was when Steph was much younger. Like being in that area, obviously, and Chris Paul is playing out there, I guess there was this, hey, I kind of want to be like this guy thing back in the day when Steph was like in high school and such.
Yeah, no, I mean, none of it's video documented. We've never really seen like their relationship, but it sounds like they were tight, like, big brother or mentor type of figure for when Steph was out there and CP was playing out there as well. So, I mean, yeah, you're right. They are definitely, Slater got the clip out of them running some of the Warriors actions together. Steph said today that it's going to be mad fun to play with CP. I've never heard Steph use that type of language whatsoever. So maybe that's something to look forward to.
Maybe Steph could help figure out what the nickname is for this WNBA team now. He's getting a little creative. So what do you think the fit is going to be like? Now they get this little break. It's a break in a sense that they don't have to bring CP off the bench in the preseason. Draymond sprains the ankle. Because of that, now CP and Steph are going to start in the preseason. Do you see, like, in my head, the vision that I have is Chris just runs the second team, and it's Kuminga, and it's Saric, and it's Wiggins, and he's just kind of, he's being ultimate point guard, where Steph doesn't necessarily play point guard. Draymond kind of plays point guard more than Steph does. And it's just Chris running the show. But if Chris is with the first team, him and Draymond are almost too similar in what they do that I kind of wonder if it would be a bad fit.
Yeah, that's definitely, I mean, they're definitely gonna have the lineups out there where it's, fast five, but instead of JP, it's CP. Like they can't not try it and see how it goes. But yeah, there is that, when Draymond just gets the ball and takes off running and is trying to like pass it,
Yeah, where does CP go? Like if you're running the break, Draymond's running the break. Steph knows that he's going to his spot. Does CP just go to the
Does he just trail or does he trail?
Does he trail for the bailout for when Draymond jumps in the air with nothing to do and CP just like right there?
Honestly, that's what I would think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm intrigued at how they work that out. But then again, no Draymond at least for 3 weeks, so we won't exactly see what happens there. And I know that CP does not want to be just like the guy who helps these young players, but I am so interested to see if he could help unlock JK. Because you saw the contract that Devin Vassell just signed. Oh my gosh.
You stop it there. See, Devin Vassell just gets buried because he plays for the San Antonio Spurs, who haven't had anything exciting since Duncan retired.
He scored 18 points a game and played half the season last year, and he made $145 million.
Yeah, I mean that number is just going to keep getting higher and higher each year. I think he's deserving. I think I have him as my MIP candidate. I'm going to pencil, or I'm going to write it in pen that I think he's going to win that.
It's not that he's not a good player. It's that he hasn't proven anything on the court that we are used to when it comes to these large contracts. And so if I'm JK, I'm like, oh my God, like.
I'm not gonna lie, he's proven way more than JK has.
JK's been on a winning team though. JK has a championship. Like there are things outside of numbers that if you're JK, you're like, what has this guy done?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm a team who's thinking about paying JK, I don't think one-time champion factors into anything. Like he really didn't contribute outside, like just the Memphis series for a game or two. But I'm really interested with the JK thing because I think JK's full potential is when he unlocks shot creation. Like, Slater has said multiple times that he thinks he's a potential all-star. Like that's the type of ceiling that even Anthony Slater, who I really trust his basketball opinion, has for Jonathan Kuminga. And that's what I've kind of rolled with that too. And you see it all, but it's like, they're never going to let him shot create. Like it's just never going to happen on this team where he has the ability to do that. He's not ready to do that once. And to be able to be ready to do that, you have to do it and go through some of the ups and downs and the Warriors just don't have that opportunity to allow him to do that. They need to win games.
Okay, I see what you're saying. However, if JK did more of the dirty work that they want him to do, which is clean up some of the rebounds, play a little bit of defense, run harder on the break, play harder when he knows that he's not the first option. If he does those things, then you get rewarded with opportunity. And maybe
I mean,
Kerr's
he
like,
did
hey,
that stuff though. We watched that. We said on this podcast multiple times. Like I think it started in January when he came back from that injury. He was just, I think it was the Pelicans game, like last possession, he just rips it from Ingram, like at the 3-point line, and like all those hustle plays, like he was doing that. It was like this guy's going to be a staple piece in the rotation. Boom, DMPs against the Kings and the Lakers. Like
I know, but you got to do it for more than
yes,
one
I
or
agree with
two
you.
or three games. Like you got that. It just has to be in you. And I think if this is the thing with young players and just young people in general, right? Like when you're older, you live through some stuff and you go, dang it, if I just knew that thing when I was 21, I would have skipped through so many situations of scabs and all this stuff. But what actually gets you to those moments is dealing with those ups and downs, and that's how you kind of get to that knowledge and get to that wisdom.
Touching the stove essentially too.
And if you tell JK, hey, here's what's going to happen if you do this, 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 and this, then Kerr is going to give you a little bit more freedom on offense to do what you do, but he's not going to do that until you dial in on these things, which he believes is necessary to unlock as a quality minutes player. Because, I'm not giving, he's not giving GP those minutes without GP dialing it in on defense and hustle plays, right? Like if GP was just like, I'm just gonna kind of chill. GP won't get off the bench because he doesn't even have half of the skill set that Jonathan does. So when you're in a team like that, and it's really about your playing time is based off of how hard you play and how smart you play. JK wants that freedom. Then he probably needs to do a little bit more to what the coach wants, which may not be sexy. It may not be interesting, but it's that sort of nose to the grindstone kind of thing. And then it'll unlock some freedom. And then it's like, oh, JK is first off the bench today. Like, what's going on? But that's how basketball generally works. It should be a meritocracy. It's not always, but that's kind of how it works is the people who earn the minutes get to play. And I think if he had that in his mind of like, I get it. This is a game. I have to prove this, and this, and I will get that. He would probably be kicking himself in the butt for not doing it last year.
I think the kicking in the butt moment is going to be when he allowed himself to get drafted by the Golden State Warriors and not win a pick later so he can just get 48 minutes a game and get this Devin Vassell contract.
Yeah, but look, it doesn't always work. Look at Jalen Green.
He's about to get the contract.
I mean,
he's going to get it.
He's going to get the contract. And is he ever going to play on a winning team?
I think I think so. Like, I like what they're doing. I don't know if he's the guy to go at yet. I see where he could still totally fall off pretty easily. But I think the whole thing when people keep saying I want to see what CP does to unlock Jonathan Kuminga. Like I've said it too. Like when I think about it, it's like, what is there to unlock except for consistency in what he did from January to April last year?
Just effort.
Yeah. So what he did from January to April
to me is effort.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't see. I'd be surprised if he's allowed to cook a little bit.
And no emo stuff on social media either, JK. If I'm your social media manager, no more of that garbage, especially when you don't play well. Like save the social media for when you're cooking. You have a good game, you get 20 and 8, then you post on social media. You get a DNP, and people are talking about you in a passive aggressive way in the media. No social media.
Take it away. Take away his phone.
I'm really zero dark 30 like LeBron.
Like you think about, we talked about what is JK and Moody going into year 3 now. Yeah. I think it's just crazy how I don't think you can say for sure that both of them will be in the rotation. Like when we get down to the playoffs, what does Kerr go? 7 or 8? I don't know if you can say Moody's in that when he should be. You start going down the list, you have your starting 5, then you have CP, and then do you go GP? Do you go Saric? Do you there's just like those vets that they lean on that I wouldn't be shocked again if we get another Anthony Lamb-ish situation where it's like, why is this guy getting minutes over Moody? Why is Rodney McGruder just steal the 14th spot from Rudy Gay and he's getting minutes over Moses Moody? And it's just like, I wouldn't be surprised if that situation arises again. And I can't even believe it might.
Yeah, some of that stuff that Kerr may have thought was coaching or tough love probably did work against them last year. And I'm sure and so this is the other thing. The other thing that we haven't really talked about. The elephant in the room, or the lack of elephant in the room, is Jordan Poole, right? Because if
Mhm.
Jordan Poole is the young, close to being the all-star, and Kuminga and Moody and maybe PBJ, they look at Poole as like, oh, there is an opportunity there. In this team, you can be an offensive leader, but at the same time, Jordan Poole, the way that he played, his personality rubbed some people the wrong way. As we've said 100 times, defensively, he kind of a give up player. And so with the absence of Jordan Poole, I wonder if those guys sort of don't have that leader of the young guys there, and maybe
You think he
who
was setting a standard for the young guys that were
I don't know the relationships, but like if you look at the way that team is structured, Steph at 35 years old, how does Steph, the businessman, relate to PBJ, who's like 19 years old and still gets pimples?
Exactly. It would make total sense that this team had clicks last year because they're so
Mhm.
separated in that age gap. And Wiggins is probably like, oh, which one do I join? Which generation? Do I go with the Gen X kids or do I go with the millennials?
All the dudes who are married and have kids probably have
yeah.
way
So Wiggins
more.
did go with Steph, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, if JP, being the same age, around the same age as JK and Moody, PBJ, and Rollins at times, I would not be shocked if they all kind of had their own little friend group within the team. We think I think we think sometimes that our teammates are all just like best friends, and that's just not always the case. And I think the more and more we hear about the JP situation with TK, Kawakami keeps saying stuff. It's like the more and more it does seem like it really was just like a nuisance just to have him there. And it's not even like
What
totally
about
his
what
fault.
about TK on Ethan's podcast straight up saying, I didn't like Jordan and he didn't like me, and that was okay.
It's old school of him, like I feel like my generation, we take that personally, and we can't like get over it.
It was
Whereas
I found a paywall behind the paywall. Kawakami was awesome. He was a little bit
I need to
more
listen to that. I haven't listened to it.
forthcoming on stuff that I was, and he dropped like 2 F-bombs. Like, what?
Oh my god.
Where did
Oh
Kawakami
my
come from on
god.
this pocket? Look at the podcaster that Ethan has become to get people to express themselves a little bit more. Yeah, so that we always sort of dovetail into talking about these younger guys and hoping that because I mean, Moody, JK, one of these two guys unlocking potential is kind of what we've been waiting for and what we've been dying to see, and seeing how they can help this team. What do you think about this last spot now? Rudy Gay, you mentioned Magruder.
Yeah. I think
Usman, who's on a two-way.
He's two-way, so he'll be there. I think
Who else could be in there?
Jerome Robinson is on a two-way. I think there's still a chance that someone said something about Gui Santos and is still having a contract or a tie to his Brazilian team, that he like can't get a two-way standard contract or a two-way contract for the NBA. I don't know any of that. That's what I heard, because we thought that Gui might get it, and now Jerome got it. And for those who don't know Jerome, he's been on our Santa Cruz Warriors team for a while now. He was drafted by the Clippers.
First-round draft pick, wasn't he?
He was drafted by the Clippers either 2 picks before or after Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So like there was some real hype for him in the 2017 draft class with Ayton, Luka, Trae Young, and all of them. He just really never panned out. I feel like his game doesn't totally translate in today's NBA. He's kind of like a mid-range guy, like a slow, methodical mid-range guy. But yeah, he got the two-way spot. We think hopefully Gui ends up with some kind of opportunity. But yeah, that final spot is looking like it's either Rudy Gay or Rodney Magruder. I have a feeling Kerr will like Magruder more. But we need the size, because Magruder is 6'4".
Who knows if Gay can even play at this point? That's to be, and maybe we'll see. Maybe on Saturday, I don't know if he's playing or not. But it's so funny, because we do this podcast. I'm like, yeah, like I'm gonna watch the game. I may not watch it live, but I'll watch it the way that I normally watch Warriors games, which is I'll skip through the commercials and every time
skip through free throws.
skip through free throws, and sometimes if there's a shot and it goes in, and then it's like usually 10 seconds as they bring the ball down, I'll fast
Skip
forward
it.
that and just get to the play. And you
Yeah.
can actually get through a game in like 45 minutes. It's actually
Yes, yeah,
cool.
totally.
So that I'm sure I'm going to do that for these preseason games because I do want to see what they're going to do at the end of the bench here. But we had a trade idea that we were kind of just circling around in chat with the idea that Robert Williams possibly gets moved from Portland. And you thought it would take JK and maybe even a pick alongside JK to get Robert Williams. But is that somebody who could be a game changer on this team, do you think?
I think healthy, yeah. I mean, Draymond said it in the media day where they asked him about like the size thing, and he's like, "Look, I've been an undersized guy. People undervalued me, and look, I proved them wrong." And then he goes, "But I think we do need size." And Robert Williams is the epitome of that. He is someone who's maybe even a little undersized in terms of the center, but he guards up. He's such a great defender, such a great rim protector.
Mm-hmm.
He was someone that actually kind of like, I feel like you are someone who bases other players' value on if they're
how they play
good against the Warriors.
A lot of it.
Robert Williams played really well against the Warriors for being hobbled out there in the finals. That's another point. This guy's always hobbled. He's never 100%, kind of like GP2. So there's risk in that. But I do think that for the present term, which it sounds like is the direction they went with even acquiring a player like CP3, we're going in on the Steph era. I think Robert Williams would help this team more this year than Kuminga and Saric combined, in my opinion.
But you are somebody who never, ever, ever wants to give up on Jonathan Kuminga. That seems like that trade would break your heart.
It would. I'd be really sad. Yeah, I've totally been like the pro young guy on this podcast, but I don't know. You watch how some of these years have unfolded, and it's like, last year it was really Steph against the field. He had no help, and that feels like a big part of it is 4 roster spots were going to players under the age of 21 who Kerr wasn't playing, and it's just going against all of the fundamentals that this team was built on, where Kerr trusts the veterans and that management wanted to go in the young guys' way. And I was like, ooh, we have a dual two timeline thing, but no, it was just one timeline, and the other was just carrying the other timeline on its back. So I think there is a little bit of a difference this year where they drafted older with Pajemski. He's 21. Trace Jackson Davis was a 4-year player. He's 22. So I think they have kind of gone against the let's draft for the high upside 18-year-old. And now Kuminga and Moody are both 21 themselves. So, but I still think that having players that Kerr can trust in the playoffs and guys that seem like Warriors guys, I think Robert Williams would be a Warriors guy. And I think they would accept that trade. It sounds like Robert Williams is coming off of the bench for them. He's on an insanely team-friendly deal. I think he's only getting paid
4 for 48.
4 for 48. He's $12 million a year.
What did he sign? When did he sign this? He signed this last year.
That's crazy.
So he's locked in for another
loony level under
3 years. But because of that, he would definitely cost them more rather than if he was like on a free agent next year. So that I think you're right. It is going to cost a hefty fee to get him. I'm wondering
though how okay, sorry, go for it.
No, I was going to say the problem with it. You mentioned the injuries. He only played 35 games last year. Yeah. He did play in 20 of the postseason games, but not very many minutes at all. And his postseason numbers were way down. Like some of those numbers in the Miami series, like he had like 7 points and 1 rebound. Like he didn't look great. Yeah. But the year that we saw him against the Warriors in the finals, he was 10-10. And, he shoots 70% from the field because all he does is dunk. And he's a halfway decent free throw shooter, 70%, 65%. So it's not necessarily like he's off the court to be fouled, but only 25. But yeah, it's just a history of injury thing. And that is always going to be the question mark when you talk about him. But, if you are a team like the Warriors, and you've already shown an insistence on trading a young guy for an old guy.
Imagine the CP thing with him too.
Right. And so trading a Kuminga for a Robert Williams, knowing that Robert Williams is on the deal. Now, what that will say, though, is basically would say, well, they gave up on Wiseman They traded him for second-round draft picks to get GP back, and then they gave up on Poole and traded him for a guy who's basically in an option year, and then you would give up JK before, and so basically what it tells the rest of the NBA is like, we have a clock that is ticking, and we cannot wait for these guys to
develop. We have a clock that is ticking. We are bad at developing. And 3, which I think is a very reasonable third option, is that look how much money is already being committed to 5 players. We have the second tax threshold that's coming in that actually has implications that will hurt the team, whereas you can't trade picks or like, so I forgot the full rules, but it is something that teams are not wanting to cross because there's actual implications now. I don't know the numbers, but you talk about Kuminga and Moody both being extension eligible this summer. Like, do the Warriors even have enough money to, like, I'm sure they're working it out, and I'm sure they know their numbers, and of course, but like, can they afford
that's the other thing,
to extend these guys? So maybe it's not only like, hey, we suck at developing, but also like, hey, we legitimately cannot keep these players rostered.
Well, they have a club option that they exercise for Kuminga this year, so it'd be $6 million this year, and I think next year it's like 7.5. So they don't have to sign him next year; they could just exercise the option.
Well, yeah,
again.
and even when they extend him, like that, the extension doesn't kick in right away. It's when the rookie contract ends. Like similar with Jordan
they didn't
Poole.
have to pay Jordan. They didn't have to pay Jordan Poole a cent over his rookie deal because of when they traded him. But the other thing is Robert Williams makes 12, JK makes 6, so that's $6 million that the Warriors would have to find.
Yeah, my trade was Kuminga and Saric. I think that's what I said in the chat, and that is 2 rotation players.
According to Kawakami, Saric is one of Steve Kerr's favorite guys.
Sorry, Kerr.
You know what though? If you tell me that Robert Williams and Saric and Looney are on the same team, that makes sense. If you tell me that it's only Looney and Williams, it doesn't really make sense because neither of those guys are offensive players, and Saric is a little bit more of an offensive player. So I don't know. There's a little bit of duplicity with Looney and Williams that may not actually work out. I wonder.
We just don't have like a legitimate rim protector right now, and I feel like we've always had those guys. Maybe we didn't in 2022
game. I mean, he does block shots still. 1.5 blocks.
Who?
Rob Williams.
Oh yeah, no, Rob Williams is a rim protector. That's like, he probably should be getting more than 1.5, but he scares people from even entering the lane. I don't know. I think they were using, when Rudy Gobert got traded from Utah to the Minnesota Timberwolves gave up the rights to Walker Kessler, and people were looking at it all season of like, look, Walker Kessler's averaging more blocks per game and more blocks rates. And it's like, well, it's because Rudy has so much merit that people don't even want to test him at the rim. So I think there is a little bit of that with Rob Williams, and even like a guy like Claxton in New York as well. Like those guys, I feel like have established like, hey, don't enter the paint or something's going to happen.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. We'll end the podcast with thoughts on Saturday. What are you looking forward to? What are you going to have your eye on when it comes to Saturday's game?
I think I'm definitely going to have my eye on how Clay looks, because we know that he had a rough start to the last year because he didn't really work out whatsoever. But this summer, he got a lot of work in. So I'm excited to see if he hits the ground running. I'm excited to see, and I'm not going to judge anything off of one preseason game, good or bad. I'll probably do it off of good because I just can't help myself.
He's going to chuck. He's definitely
going to chuck. I'm excited to finally see Wiggins. We keep forgetting Wiggins and all of this. We keep saying, oh my God, I can't wait to see what it looks like. Steph, Clay, Draymond, and CP. How about the guy who many people say was the second best player on the 2022 championship roster? I think we just forgot about him because he barely played last year, but I'm excited to see what he looks as well. They were talking about him plus minus, like when Steph and Dre are going to be tied together in minutes, like which of Clay and Wiggins is going to stay with them. And I agreed with Slater. Slater said he thinks Wiggins would stay with them. I think that's what Slater. Yeah, and then Clay would go with like the CP3 and the Kuminga crew and those type of. And I think that makes sense. And I'm excited to see how that, kind of how these different lineup combinations look together. I'm obviously excited to see just how CP looks with some of the backups. I'm super excited.
Can we not play Steph a lot this preseason? I'm not that I'm worried. I know the guy's in tremendous shape. He's a freak of nature as far as his longevity is concerned, especially when his career didn't start off that way. I'm antsy because I want to see this team, but always in the back of my mind, that little black cloud that's hanging over is just like, if Steph gets hurt, then like the Warriors are done, like that kind of thing. But maybe with CP, maybe that is not the case. He can keep things afloat if Steph does get hurt. But let's just not overplay Steph here. Let's just chill on those Steph minutes. Let's give B pods a lot of minutes.
Lots of B pods.
Yeah, I want to see some. And then
I know you want to end this podcast, and I don't know. We're at 45 minutes. It's probably a good spot to end. Can we quickly just like? Do you think this will work? Like, do you think you see how we stack up against the West? You have Denver up there. You have the Lakers, who clearly saw an issue and added, and I think their additions were amazing. Phoenix, who did the Bradley Beal thing, they did Nurkic, and now they filling out with more depth, and that depth is to be seen if they're good or not. We'll see. But with the Warriors and what they addressed in the summer, we both predicted that Jordan Poole would not be on the rosters. Slater didn't, haha, and look what happened.
Slater. His whole article was about how Jordan was going to be like a long-term puzzle piece.
Like a week before it happened, too. Like, he got button-hooked by some of his inside sources. And we were just like, hell no. But it's like what they address. I think I did when I just remember watching those Kings and Lakers things. It'd be like, here's what we need. We need these guys who are going to be playing more regular season games. We need these guys who are going to be getting to the line more, because we didn't have someone who's getting to the line more. With Wiggins not there, and then Jordan was really the only person consistently getting the free throw line. So now you need a guy who gets to the line. You need a guy who attacks the rim, who's also in turn going to get to the line. You need a guy who's going to be playing more regular season games, because when Steph goes out, it feels hopeless sometimes. And Jordan kind of willed us to a 6 seed, him and Clay. And you also need a rim protector. And it's like, they didn't address any of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they got CP, who you'd think is a grifter. We all think he's like a great grifter, but you look at his free throws numbers, they've been going down. Yeah. He's opposite of what I'm saying, and we need someone who's going to be playing more regular season games. Not only will he not be playing more regular season games, we also don't want him to be playing more regular season games, because he always flames out in the playoffs because he's injured. And it's just like, I think they didn't address any of the things and I'm not the guy in the front office. I'm not the basketball genius, but these are just things that I thought was obvious to me that I saw. They didn't address a rim protector. They didn't address, just a lot of things that I at the end of the day, it's all is going to be how good is 30, like it always is. And the rest will follow. But I am like, I guess I'm just skeptical, but at the same time, I could see the path where it works. Whereas Jordan Poole, not to blame everything on him, but just I think they enjoy having someone who's an adult in the room, someone who is going to play really smart basketball, someone who wants to go out there and compete. Like, not to say Jordan wasn't all of those things, but I genuinely do think he had some poor me syndrome out there a little bit. And I don't know. I think there is a path where I see this working, where it's just, why do we ever doubt the Warriors type of thing? So, but what do you think? And like,
okay, I think Denver, the Lakers, the Suns, those are the teams that you mentioned. I think they are above the Warriors at this point.
I think so too.
I think the Jonathan Kuminga, and this is why he has to come out and play well this year, because he is the trade chip. There are guys who are going to be available. Remember last year when we were talking about who's available, we were like, Siakam, is Miles Turner available? What about OG Anunoby? Like, there are guys, but the Warriors have guards. They need wings. They need guys who can play 3 and 4. And so if you can use Kuminga as a way to get a Siakam or a Miles Turner, who's the other one I was just looking at right now?
OG.
OG.
They'll never trade OG, by the way.
I mean, even like I don't think Ayton is a great fit for the Warriors, just because he's also kind of young, and I'm sure he would give Steve Kerr some headaches. But something like that, where you need a guy if Davis is hot and the Warriors are just not able to stop him, you need somebody who could just kind of bump up against him and give him a little bit of frustration. And so if it is those guys like Miles Turner, you would think would be someone who'd be perfect for the Warriors because offensively, he can space, right? And then defensively, he can block shots. He's not going to be your best rebounder, but you have Draymond next to Miles Turner. And Miles Turner could probably even play a little bit with Loon just because of his ability to space. It's guys like that who, if they make that kind of deal, then you're like, okay, that deal is to match up against the Lakers, or it's to match up against Denver. It's to match up against Milwaukee, Boston. And but they're going to have to be patient with stuff like that because the deadline is where you make those kind of trades, right? It's these teams really, really waiting to get rid of these guys, waiting to the last minute. So I think the Warriors fans are gonna have to be patient, but I do think Kuminga, it is paramount that he plays well because he has to be an attractive guy, attractive piece. We know that they don't give a crap about draft picks. They're gonna trade whatever draft pick exists. They don't even have next year's draft pick. Where did that end up? It
ends
ended up in the Boston
Portland.
trade, right? To Portland.
Portland.
So, they're going to do whatever it takes. And I think though that kind of move will be out there. Now, if they don't do that and they go into the whole thing small like they are right now, I think we're going to see that we'll see the same thing happen where you get against the good big team is going to beat the good little team. Now, the great little team can beat the good big team. The Warriors were not the great little team in that series last year.
Not at all. You had one guy playing well.
Yeah. So, it was good. Well, we have some Warriors basketball here on Saturday, and I think you and I will probably be going week to week from here on out. And, maybe we'll do some special stuff. I am currently doing some podcast stuff for 49ers in the midweek. We're not going live and streaming, but we're doing stuff for the podcast feed. And I think I'm going to do some similar stuff. For the Warriors, if Brian and I can't get together after a game and do a live stream, like after opening night or something, maybe do like a 10 to 15 minute thing on the game just for the podcast audience. So that I'm looking to do more stuff like that for this feed. So, all right, we will be back next week. Have fun watching the Warriors this weekend in Chase. And I think there's I'll take 3-1 odds that Bri figures out how to find a ticket for Saturday. All right.
Thanks for the confidence.
Okay. So, we'll be back. For Bri, I'm Double G. We'll see you when we see you. Peace out.